You get up and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis the 13th. Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head. My roll chop niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day pimping America overseas. Pension for the workers, nigga please. Embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement. I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut. Foreclosure Vic holes at the tenement. I twist words like a speech impediment. I hope you got good credit, bitch. If not, better get a new job with benefits. While I play golf with niggas to get cheddar with. New money buys brand new carrots. My old money bunch of great grandparents. You got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya. I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me $1 billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
Welcome to UCY TV. Tonight, tyranny via technology. On this episode of Voice of Rebellion, we'll talk about how the government is introducing the police state via technology, from smartphones, meters, and streetlights to bioscanning as well. How much of this is being done with a little pushback? Tonight, Chris J. with Voice of Rebellion.
Hey, everybody. This is Chris J. here, the one and only. And, yeah, tonight's show is going to be pretty interesting, and there's some really eye-opening stuff out there. And I shouldn't have said they're going to introduce the police state, because the police state is here already, but how they're going to further the police state is probably what I should have said. When it's happening with very little pushback, and a lot of these measures I'm talking about, it's not that are being introduced, it's more like they already, matter of fact, have been introduced. Some of the stuff hasn't been quite introduced yet full all across the nation, or is yet to be introduced altogether. You know, it's like the street light thing. At some places they do have those, smart lights. Smart street lights. There are some places they are, some places they aren't. You know, and some cities have kind of been the first to be able to experiment with them. It's very alarming stuff, really, because they, this is stuff straight out of George Orwell's book, 1984, and it's happened already, or it is happening, and you better buckle up, because this show is going to be a little bit of eye opener for some people that are new into the truth movement, don't really know about a lot of the stuff that is going on via technology, and how even right now, as we're talking this conversation, well, it's my thoughts that I'm bringing to you on this radio show. We're going straight to the NSA, into a black room, well, a room full, man, a dark room full of computers, and with a bunch of weird dudes there. You know, I'll tell you one thing, is that there's a lot of people that are, 17, 18, 19 years old or whatever on the show, and they're listening, and there's a lot of people that I have from my local audience that listen, I guess, that, not a lot of people, well, there's got to be some people in there, and I'm telling you that, let me put it this way, is that you guys really like Snapchat, like all these photo sending apps, and mainly Snapchat seems to be the most popular one. I have one. I don't really add too many people on there. If you really want to communicate with me, just message me on Facebook. Which for now, let's talk about my personal Facebook. I think about to make some kind of page or a second Facebook or for whatever, because I kind of like where I'm at right now with the friends list. I don't really feel like putting more people on there unless I do a big cleanse. I don't feel like going over the threshold I'm at. I feel like I'm right now at the absolute furthest I could without, because I already miss so much of people I really like, stories and news that I get on there. And then a lot of my pages I have so many pages liked and so many friends now at this point. This is for a lot of people, but for me it's a lot of people. And I miss so much. You know, I don't want to add more people that I just get little tidbits of everybody. I'd rather have, you know, more considerable portions of information coming from everybody. That's a little bit off track. I'm just saying for a personal note. Yeah, the thing is that with all this technology is that people seem to very much accept it. Like the NSA, what would happen is that most Americans took the stand of supporting the NSA period and believed that was necessary to stop terrorism or whatever, which being completely ignorant on what the phony war on terror is. They went right down with that very basic mindset of thinking right there. And, well, I didn't finish my thought there, but I'm just saying is that the NSA, well, people are very willing to accept that. Very willing, may not seem the whole house all the way goes down, and it's like these young people must not be registered. They love to send, you know, naughty pics of each other to each other. You have to remember, there's a third party that's watching all that. All the Snapchat pics. The NSA has probably a giant porn collection of stuff that's supposed to be private between two parties, and there's a third party. There's some creepy dude. They probably assigned the creepy dude to view all that stuff, view the Snapchat stuff, and that's his perk, I guess, if you want to think of it that way, you know, to scan out all the potential threats or whatever that could be found on Snapchat, and he gets to see all that stuff as a perk, I guess. It would probably, this is how I imagine the NSA war room or whatever would look like. You know, just what I'm picturing is a big room of people, you know, and then you have columns of people on computers or whatever watching all the shit that is put on the internet, and other guys, you know, probably even like watching streaming podcasts. There's probably a whole division for that. There's a radio show. There's probably some guy right now that's probably this is what exactly he's doing. This is his task at the moment. Maybe we've gotten to that point. That would actually be somewhat of a compliment when you think that they're that worried about this radio show that they have a guy that's assigned just to listen to it for these 2 hours. This is the only task that he's doing. That'd be nice. I don't know. That's my way of thinking things, and stay positive of all this ugly shit that is the NSA, and I do not accept it whatsoever. I mean, but the bad thing is that there's nothing really that I feel like at this point it's went such in the wrong direction. We've let Americans, we've let the Fourth Amendment be such violated. And now there's all these different arguments. People say, oh, this is the internet, this doesn't count. Well, it still counts because the Fourth Amendment wasn't, you know, all these amendments that were put back there in the Constitution. People think they wanted to protect the stuff that existed then. No, it was protect the concepts of these things. You know, it wasn't just to protect freedom of speech in your news press or whatever, but freedom of speech in any future vehicles of speech down the road, including the internet, which they couldn't have predicted. But if they would have been predicted, they would have supported freedom of speech there. You know, like people said, well, they want to support the Second Amendment with machine guns or whatever. Well, it was to be whatever would be on par with the military of the government at that time. And at that time, with protecting muskets and guns like that, because that's what the military had. And now we'd be protecting weapons that be on par or better. They can actually protect the people from the government's military. So that'd be some pretty high-tech shit. That'd be stuff that's not even legal. Which I think that even as it is, America's gun laws are ridiculously strict in some regards, and when it comes to Russia, I feel like Russia or something, it's like a free-for-all practically, and they don't have nearly the gun deaths we have here in America. It's contributed to something else. It's the mental health stupid. It's how that should be the line right there. Everybody on these Prozacs and other pills and stuff like that goes on psychotic rages and kill a bunch of people. It doesn't have anything to do with the guns. It's the mental health state that's been affected by the medication. But nobody likes to admit that. We have a lot of stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff. This is a broad topic, when you talk about all the ways that the high-tech police state, the technocracy, all the different ways you could call it, is affecting our lives today in America. On the internet, that's the major one. Because, as much as it's a good thing between us that we can all talk to each other on the internet, And that's why they realize it's a very dangerous threat to the system. So they watch it very closely. That we can communicate with each other, that we can actually organize stuff that's happened in countries before. And it's been also exploited by the CIA and stuff, that they've used the internet to organize stuff like the Syrian rebellion. Started it was, I think, an internet thing. And in Egypt, of course, the bringing up of Mohammed Morsi was definitely in CIA op, which what they did that. Why would they take out one of their own guys and bring in another one of their own guys? Because they were very likely to go to somebody different, maybe, finally. But in the long run, they made sure they controlled the revolution in Egypt and turned it into, actually put a guy that was really almost more destructive for the Egyptian country. It was really the same. I mean, it's like picking between Mubarak and Morsi. It's like picking between shit and more shit. But that's what happened in Egypt, and they exploit the CIA and the powers that control the United States. They exploit the internet. They put a lot of disinfo out there. They have all these websites, these news websites, that now is no longer the talking heads on the TV as much. Now it's starting to become more of the internet websites that people heavily rely on. A lot of young people heavily rely on, because they don't even watch TV anymore, really. They are watching news TV. They don't watch cable TV as much. They might watch Netflix or something like that, but they don't watch news on the television, so now they have to put the news on the internet, where they will go to it. And, those bombarded with the CNN or the Fox Online or whatever. But on the good side is that now, YouTube, which is a source that's heavily used by a lot of young people and a lot of people just altogether, it is the most watched news source on YouTube now is RT. So it definitely goes to the point when Hillary Clinton said, we're losing the information war. That's what they're talking about, is that, well, their propaganda is not working as well, because their attempts to try to bombard the internet with their propaganda has failed, because now RT and these other alternative medias are now taking over the internet. And it seems like a lot more people are going to the alternative media, but now the alternative media is getting infiltrated. Like we have people like Alex Jones, who really relies. Alex Jones, I've seen him go from, just in the time that I've really been into this truth movement heavily. He was in 2013 was a non-voting, borderline anarchist or whatever. He's actually had a lot of substance to his talk, but he still always had a lot of very hints that always told me that this guy was a insider, belonged to the other side. But now, I've seen him just a few months ago. That's the funniest thing, is that just a few months ago he was supporting Ted Cruz and Sarah Palin. I've seen it before happen, and now he's on the whole Trump bandwagon, but he's jumping from establishment politician to another establishment politician to another establishment politician. He just became practically like a little bit more edgier version of Fox News or something. And he's on the same kind of bullshit that he's putting over there, Alex Jones. He talks bad about the governments that are actually against the New World Order. He talks bad about Cuba and Iran and Venezuela. And I'm pretty sure he's talking bad about I think he's definitely of course he talked bad about North Korea, which there's things to criticize about them, but he tried to make it seem like, well, that they're very dangerous, crazy enemy or whatever. Let me remind you that despite all the stuff that is reported about North Korea, remember, almost all of it's lies probably, and one of the most important things is that they have not invaded anybody since the Korean War, and almost every provocation, like I did on that show I was talking about, laid it out on Valentine's Day about Korea. Almost all the provocations, major ones that happened in recent times, South Korea provoked it, or the United States provoked it first, and they were doing a response. And then in the story, the official story that the media puts out, they just erase it. They erase the first part and just put. It's like what they did when 2002, back when the Chavistas responded to the right-wingers shooting at them. They shoot it back on the media. They would only show the part where the Chavistas shot back at the right wing, so it just looked like they opened fire, but really they were just responding to fire that had been opened on them. And that's right there, a media trick is that they leave out the whole first part of the story. I mean, it's their media. And it's now it's this whole online age, and
Hey, Chris.
people don't. Oh yeah, cool. We got Michael joined in, and
Yep,
that was
we have
the
our caller.
Yeah, Michael. I know the number.
Hey, what's up?
And hey, Mike.
Joe,
Can you hear us?
are you ready? Are you ready for a Trumpocalypse?
Trump. Yeah, no. Trump. I talk. I don't like him, of course, but I mean, Mike had a good point, and we talked a little bit in our conversation. Is that I guess if you want the apocalypse to be fun, I guess Trump is your guy to vote for.
If you really wanted to be fun, you pick Trump and Nugent 2016. Kick a hippie in the balls, America.
Trump Nugent 2016. Nugent, I have to say that after it was pretty weird, how it went down. Nugent for a long time, he seemed to be really kind of in the same category as maybe like a Jones or something like that. Is that he sounds like he might have some good ideas, but then he says something really stupid. But when he put that post about the people that are really truly behind gun control, he got really berated about it. There was something that was underlined. These people look like they all have connections back to the Israeli lobby, and it might have been unintentional, but it happened. And Ted Nugent, I don't know if it was intentional or not. I think Ted Nugent being him is unintentional, and he probably just learned the hard way that you can't talk about anybody in the Israeli lobby.
Ted touched the third rail, and there's still going to be some fallout over it. I think he's probably going to end up. I see there's a fair chance that he loses his spot on the NRA board of directors.
Yeah, probably gonna, I mean, the NRA, is ultimately pretty much an insider. It's an establishment organization. The NRA kind of controls the pro-gun movement, so they can't, have certain positions, and pretty much a lot of the pro-gun movement blindly follow this organization, and it's kind of like a, it's kind of like the Alex Jones of the alternative media. It needs a lot of people that were on the right track. The gullible people, though, the ones that are gullible, they all look to that guy, or they all look to the NRA, or the people in the NRA. That's like, oh yeah, you can't be anti-Israel if you're a gun owner. That's not how you're a responsible gun-owning American is, whatever. Or you can't be, you can't be a non-voting person or whatever.
The real question to ask is if this is a crazy conspiracy theory, and this is just rabid, just rambling talk. The question is name the one person of that subgroup that is actually standing up and defending the Second Amendment, and there is no answer to that.
Yeah, well, and also the NRA. I mean, they laughed out back at the open gun. Yeah, the people who actually were open carry on Texas, and that became a movement all across the country and a few other states.
Well, here's the real feeling about the NRA is everybody's screaming that how they don't want a firearms database, don't want the government to have a firearms database. Well, what do you think the NRA is? Every time if you were on the NRA list, if you ever got a letter from the NRA, if you put NRA sticker on your car, ever once, you've got 100 guns. You don't have one, you've got 100. And that's the way they'll look at you. So everybody on that list, that's just as good as having a national registry list, Maybe it should be the National Registry Association instead of the National Rifle Association.
There was something, that I was thinking about before the show that I was going to definitely bring up, is that I was talking about all the ways that they're going to be controlled via technology or whatever in the future. I mean, I saw that it was stuff like what might happen in New Jersey soon. That fat piece of shit, Chris Christie, it was proposing right before all this presidential runs and stuff or whatever, and the whole circus that this has became. But before that, he was talking about that he's going to restrict guns down to, you'll have to have like a digital lock on there or something like that. Pretty much the government can just lock your gun in time.
New Jersey's got an interesting gun safety law, or what they bill as a gun safety law. They've actually passed smart gun technology acts, and As soon as the first shotgun becomes available in the United States for sale on a national level, there are to be no further firearms sold in New Jersey unless it has the smart gun technology. Now, that sounds well and good, but for anybody who's ever tried to use a smartphone with wet fingers, do you think this gun is going to be 100% reliable? No, I don't think so.
Well, it's not just to be unreliable. It's Orwellian. I mean, it's just the fact that any second, when the government decides you are in any sort of trouble or whatever, they lock off.
I think just the fact that it's Orwellian is a normal part of the day. I don't even think people even realize how Orwellian is the perfect description, but it's like not strong enough. Yeah, I mean, it's nightmarishly Orwellian. The amount of Big Brother watching you, the amount of newspeak, the dumbing down and destruction of the language. I mean, for Christ's sake, text messaging has basically destroyed the English language, and like the rise of emojis is just like a big retrograde motion into hieroglyphics. I mean, what's next? Papyrus? Start like scratching shit in mud. I mean, 10 years, the United States is just going to speak grunt, and that grunt will mean yes, I comply.
Well, I know what you mean. I mean, you see the emoticons is definitely like all that stuff from the text messaging. It's devolved really bad. Just in even like the last 3 years, I've noticed everybody is just sending that. It's gone down to the point where sometimes people just do conversations online or whatever, or on their phones. All emoticons and definitely language and the amount of words that people use compared to 30 or even talk about like 50, 60 years ago.
It's definitely it's beyond that. I mean, look at currently right now. There's a generation of kids who are learning up not to recognize cursive. I mean, they recognize it as a bunch of squiggles, but they can't read it. They can't write in it, and that's scary. That's really scary. They can operate a tablet, a touchscreen, a keyboard. They can, run software programs and Excel spreadsheets and all that, but they can't write their name. They write their name like a kindergartner, and when they're in like 7th grade.
Well, this is exactly the intelligence level. I mean, that the super rich want most Americans. They want them at the intelligence level of a labor unit. So, of course, they're going to want them to be able to operate a few things or whatever, just so they can be the labor. But beyond that, they don't want them to have any critical thinking of any kind whatsoever. And it's really, now it's this Common Core that's being introduced into the school system. It's going to be even worse than ever, which I almost can't believe.
The slaves are never allowed to get uppity before they face lash.
Yeah. There was a lot of things. Really, a trip to see like all these technological things that the government now have. That I was looking through over time. Now I don't know out there in Texas if any cities have introduced, and I mentioned it earlier in the show about the smart streetlights that are now in quite a few cities across the country. Now they're in Charlotte. They're down here in Tampa Bay. They brought them about a year ago, and I remember when they brought them. And I thought, oh, that's a little bit weird. Why does that light look so different? It looks pretty high tech. They saw just an LED power saving light, but then you'll do a little research and you realize that what they just put is a thing that actually records all the stuff that's going on in the vicinity of that light, and it can do in real time back to the other lights and back to the GE headquarters.
Camera in it or something? The video and audio.
It's got video on it, and it's actually able to send back information back to the General Electric's headquarters in real time. So they got pretty much a live video anywhere. They have these street lights, and which they've come in a few cities.
Well, on crime and make us all feel safe.
Well, I don't. Of course, the point of it, I think, is the street lights. It's surveillance. It's not really to stop petty criminals or whatever. I think it's more to keep an eye on.
Nothing has ever stopped criminals. If you truly wanted to set criminals, they could. But that really kind of digs into the great big money pit right there. Figure how much does a cop make, and then you take a look at at how many hours and how many cops are working, and then the cost of a jailer and the cost of building new jails. And crime is an industry. The crime prevention and law enforcement is a complete industry.
Yeah, I think that.
And, I mean, it's totally corrupt. I would dare say it's more corrupt than the crime that it's supposedly fighting in many, many instances.
Well, there's a lot of stats that prove that, and that we ultimately have this prison industrial complex that's been built in this country, and now you have most of the prisons in this country going to private eventually. It'll at least be that way. It's definitely the southern states like Louisiana, they have the most private prisons of any state in the country, and that's quite a bit.
Well, and then you also find that a lot of these private prisons in the United States are also providing prison labor, which is slave labor. So a lot of the clothing that you find that proudly proclaims it's made in the USA, there's a good chance it was made by prison labor in the USA.
Yeah, it's what's pretty much what's happening is that we have all these people that are a lot of times 18 to 20 years old that end up going to these private prisons and being forced to do slave labor, and they're pretty much your punishment is being put into slavery for whatever time you're in prison. In these private prisons, of course, since they're a business, they're going to want more crime for people to be, so they can bring more prisoners in, and it's something that's went under the radar, I guess, until recently. I think some people are finally starting to realize this is, whole criminal system is just absolutely fucked. I mean, we have 50% of all the people in our prison system are nonviolent drug offenders, and we have more prisoners in this country than China, Russia, and a few other countries, major countries combined. I mean, I think China has like 300,000, which that's bad if we're beyond them. But they might also kill a lot of their people before. They don't even put them through the prison. They just kill them. But Russia only has 100,000 prisoners or something like that, while it's got a population of 100 million. Compared to our 3 million, but it's 10 times more by per capita are being thrown into prison. And they put these sentences now. They have all the minimum sentences now. They'll be like automatically you're going to have 5 years no matter what you do, and they could put you up to 50 years. And it's usually drug sentences work this way. You have these people doing in South Carolina life for pot and stuff like that. Like when we saw, what's that one story? Like, I actually got exonerated. But it was, because his story went viral. But that doesn't mean that everybody in South Carolina has a life sentence been exonerated.
Well, it's very rare that somebody in law enforcement or in the associated, crime prevention and law enforcement industry actually really gets any sort of like shaft for any of the wrongdoing they commit. I mean, they almost have to be caught with a live boy or a dead girl, and then sometimes not even then they get away. Something interesting is happening somewhat near me in Houston, Texas, in Harris County. There was a deputy shot. He was murdered while he was pumping gas. There's a great big stink over it, and it was one of the largest funerals in history. And the sheriff of Harris County came out and said, this is ISIS, and this is the result of people getting angry about cops killing each other, blah blah blah. Well, this story is turned into a nightmare, and there's actually been 3 sheriffs and investigators fired over this incident. It's not turned out to be the expert hitman, possible ISIS member. It turns out that the guy who's the shooter, Shannon Miles, is like an IQ of like 65. He's just laughed out crazy. The main witness was actually sexually involved with the victim, and the cops that were fired were fired because they were hiding the witness. And this is a great big old mess that they went from being the national story, and the Blue Lives Matter really kicked off after that. That really got a great big push with you'll just see it driving around. There's a bunch of bumper stickers on cars, and it's a thin blue line in a black square.
Yeah, I've seen that. I saw that. Well, I saw the blue, literally a sticker that said Blue Lives Matter, and I couldn't help but laugh a little bit because it's the same kind of mentality, you know, that there's a war on cops or whatever. When you have the least amount of police ever are being killed in 2015, while we have thousands being killed by police in 2015. Many stuff is ridiculous.
The crazy thing is like since 9/11, cops have killed way more people than ever died in 9/11.
Oh yeah, it outnumbers it quite a bit, and I mean it's just like 2015. Like I said, I believe that they're probably actually downplaying the numbers because on CNN, out of all the news networks, they're saying 1,300 or something like that. So you imagine if they're putting that number, that's a false number. It's probably way higher than that. Probably 3,000 or something like that. Or because what's that number also says is, there's a fine line with some of these things that the deaths can't be for sure attributed to the police action, whatever. So that statistic's kind of a vague statistic, and also you don't see when that number is the absolutely horrific, uncalled for killings of innocent people by police departments around the country, by stuff like like a homeless disabled veteran. There's stories like this, and then the cops unload 30 bullets into him and keep shooting at him for 5 minutes. There was one up in Michigan, so I think it was a disabled guy. Yeah.
Hey,
Vince. I was like, hey, Vince.
Hey, we got a caller. Hey, Michael, how you doing, brother?
Not bad. Sorry, I got booted off.
Yeah, was that you calling back in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Get that in. Hey, my brother's wife's from China, and he went over there a couple of times. And they've told me how they've got rolling execution squads there. There's not a lot of people going to prison when you're considering they'll roll up, execute them, and harvest their organs. And I can imagine Russia might be nearly as totalitarian. I'm not sure about their execution policy, but a person here in America at least gets 10 or 15 years to sit on death row before they get that live wire.
I thought it was Russia. I don't think it's not even comparable with China or whatever. I mean, yeah, China's got some pretty horrific stuff going on there, but Russia, I suppose that doesn't seem like, some of the sentencing actually, they seem to actually be more saying on stuff like cannabis policy or whatever, where they actually have criminalization up to like a huge amount or something like that. So it's like it's like ounces, I think, you have to be caught before it actually becomes anything serious. A lot of times, I think that the cops don't, and they just turn the other cheek on that kind of stuff. Russia, I don't think they have rolling execution squads. The only people that really kill, I mean, like the same amount of people we'd be acceptable with killing here, I guess, and murderers and stuff like that. They do some pretty.
A great big portion of the crime and the perceived crime in the United States is directly related to the war on drugs.
Well, yeah, I mean the war on drugs. It leads to all kinds of, leads to a lot of murders. It leads to, like, one example here in Tallahassee, up north of Tallahassee, they had there was this lady that got busted with, I think, a little bit of a few drugs or something like that. And she had like sentenced a few years, like 10 years. She was a mother too, so she really didn't want to do the 10 years. So she became an informant. Then they sent her in with money, and then she got with $1,500, telling, oh yeah, you'll get your sentence heavily reduced or whatever. Or no, it was like $1,000, and then she went in and buy all the stuff, and then she gets killed right there, and of course, police are like, oh, that's why this happens. But that's what imagine, that's what that they do a lot of times is that they get you with these little amount of drugs, but then it's a giant hefty sentence. Then they have to use an informant, and then you get killed. Because the kind of stuff the kind of requirements, I mean, they're really, it's very. They make you say the word.
Well,
so
just come out with some sort of new legislation where they were going to, decriminalize marijuana, and what it turns out to be is that your first arrest now, instead of going to jail, it's a $75 fine, and then it goes to a $150 fine for your second arrest, and then every subsequent arrest after that is $300. And it's like, that's not, working out in the people's best interest by any means. It's still like, it's just robbery of a different flavor now. Before they were robbing the state to get the daily money that the state usually pays to every county for people that go to jail. They usually get like, I think it's like $86 a day or something is what they get in Texas, is what the county gets from the state for to house somebody. So now they just they've eliminated the work and just going to collect the money.
It's definitely still, I mean, people that say the criminalization is good enough, it's ridiculous, really, because for a lot of people that are going to get even a $75 fine, well, a lot of people, especially in like cities like St. Pete or whatever, where the wages are so horribly low, if that's the only money they have, I mean, they don't have $75 to spend on a ticket, and then, they will put you in jail after enough time. And especially when we talk about $300 fines or something like that, just after 3 offenses. So there's still going to be a lot of people going to jail. Will just be a little bit delayed when they're put in jail later for the fine. And it's definitely not legalization. Totally. I like there was a bill in Texas actually that, of course, I didn't go anywhere, but it was like 2 or 3 years back. That was going to
he wanted
to be treated like a tomato. Like a regular. Yeah, the quote act.
He wanted to read it like a plant, like a plant that the Creator put on this planet or something. Like, what a revolutionary idea! That man is a hippie. Yeah, no,
I know. He's just having the most common sense idea that people just thought is crazy, and that's how it should be treated. I mean, it's ultimately, sure it does get people high or whatever, but it was a natural plant, and it had so many medicinal benefits, and it's never killed anybody ever, literally ever. I think people sometimes
one guy that had like a bale out of a plane and it hit him. Like it was like a 50-pound bale that fell like 3,000 feet and hit a guy, and that killed him. But I think that's the only death attributable to it.
Yeah, that's a little bit different. There's probably been a few deaths that have been by marijuana, but not the ways that people think it. Like there's probably like the plane, the big bale falling on them, or I don't know. There's probably been a guy that slipped on a bag and cracked their head open. That might have happened. I don't know. Or
there was that one girl whose marijuana bong exploded while she was bonging the weed.
Yeah,
Ever seen that picture?
Stuff. No, I didn't see the picture actually.
It's some girl who's got like Halloween makeup on, and it's just crazy. Yeah, why it's not a problem to put our children onto amphetamines, and amphetamines are kind of insidious. They're really kind of something to be very, very aware of. They're very, very addictive. They're very potent. They work very, very well. Well, a lot of kids in the United States are on Adderall, or Adderall's generic cousin, right? Well, all right, so we're all big kids. You've either taken a pill at one time because you were sick, or a pill because you wanted to party. Like, endemic to every one of them pills that's out there, with the exception of like baby aspirin and like Dimetapp, they all taste like chemical farts. No pill tastes good at all out there, except for Adderall. Those things taste like orange. They taste like orange candy, kind of. And, the drug that's like kind of marketed to kids that has a serious addictive nature to it and can set them up for future, addiction problems. Like, where the hell, like, the eyeballs on that one?
Yeah, Adderall. I didn't know that fact actually. That Adderall was actually flavored for flavors that kids would like.
Name brand Adderalls that are not the capsules, but the ones that are the pill with the compressed powder. Those are like an orange flavor to them.
Yeah, that's a little bit alarming. I've seen Adderall. This stuff's not a joke. That I never took it myself, but I saw people that would do it, and it wasn't for any kind of diagnosed thing. It was people would take it like before test, before finals or whatever in high
school. You get a lot done. I'll tell you what, if you take like 2 or 3 Adderall before you go and you like say you want to go out and party and drink all night, take 2 or 3 of those before you go out, and you don't really get drunk. You can drink all night long, and you're still kind of in charge. You're really not, though.
Yeah,
you know.
well, it's definitely, but I saw it, though. It's powerful because, you know, I saw a person, was on it. You know, he told me that he had done it right before the finals. His eyes were like wide open, and he looked like he was like tweaking out almost. I mean, he probably took a few. But still, I'm saying that stuff is mess. It's an amphetamine. It's actually
amphetamine salts, and it's just something that works biologically. And, you know, people, this is really like science that's beyond a lot of people in the United States. And what's even, I personally find more disgusting is that it comes from the guy in the white coat, therefore it's infallible. You know, the man with the white coat and the stethoscope said that. You know, they wouldn't give him a white coat unless he knew exactly what he was talking about. You know, and never mind the fact that you look at any prescription out there. If next time you go to the doctor, anybody who's listening, take a look at your prescription pad. That if they still give you a prescription, it's been a while since I've been to a doctor, but there's a little box on a lower left corner, and it says PVO. And if it's got that box checked, you can almost guarantee that your doctor is getting a kickback. That box means prescription brand only, which means it cuts out the generic, which seriously cuts out the profit. I mean,
well, of course,
how you pay for all those commercials for like urinary incontinence pill if you're buying the generic version instead of, you know, PBion from, you know, Pfizer Labs or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, brought up Pfizer. I saw they just have moved. They left the country actually. So now not only are they going to overprice or overcharge everything on their terrible pills that, you know, a lot of them are poisoning people. Then now they don't even have to pay taxes. They're going to be in Ireland now, and they're not going to avoid American tax racket. Or just one other.
Is this that preemptive Trump avoidance move?
I mean, Kerry also.
There's a lot of talk about, you know, how is this going to affect corporations, and I mean, Drudge Report, which I would consider to be one of the leading news sites. You know, it's a news aggregator, but I think it's got, you know, a lot of pages every day. They've been running some really sensationalist headlines, and I mean,
hey, we've got another caller, guys. I'm gonna add them in.
Cow.
I'm adding a new caller right now. Welcome to UCY.TV, Voice of Rebellion. Hi, caller.
There's the host. This is Chris J. Hey, call.
Right on.
Hey, Chris from Canada.
Hey, it's been a long time since you've been on the show.
What's up?
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going. I'm listening to the conversation, and it's a lot over here all the time, and it's a good thing. I mean, we all do it. We're all guilty of discussing pharmaceuticals and chemtrails and what have you. My bigger concern now at this point is we've got to stop doing this shit and get down to brass tacks and deal with the issue at hand. We are being raped. We are being murdered. And what are our solutions for all this? And nobody seems to be able to discuss this in a relevant way.
I tell you exactly what the solution for being raped and murdered by the government is. And there have been many people a lot smarter than me who've said this as well, and the only answer is bloodshed. It's blatantly obvious that the system doesn't work. This current election cycle that's going on is absolute proof of it. Anybody who's paid any election cycle in the United States for the last 30 years knows that it's just completely whacked and broken. What are you going to do? Write letters to your congressman? You're going to protest?
We're in the petition of the White House website. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's ridiculous.
Like, really, honestly, And if you want like solutions to this, yeah, it's bloodshed. It's fire and brimstone. You know, pitchforks and torches and shotguns and flashlights. You know, it's not pretty to.
Do you not feel that that's what they want? Want us to raise up, and they way overpower us with their weaponry. So
you way overpower Afghanistan. We way overpower Iraq. We way overpower Grenada. We way overpower Vietnam. You know.
Well,
yeah, but a lot of that was done by design. The powers that be, without getting deeper into that issue, they designed these things to make money for the corporation.
And
so I mean, if we legitimately went into Vietnam,
the United States wouldn't be continued along that lines to make money for the corporation, or maybe the fact that if this happens, there will be no more making money for the corporation because the corporation makes dollars. And who's going to want an American dollar after there's revolution in the United States and is broken up and three of the Western sectors now have their own currency to compete with the dollar. You know, maybe they've got no choice anymore.
Well, dollar collapse or dollar restructuring or whatever you want to call it that's about to happen is pretty imminent, it looks like. And you can tell by America's allies, in quotations, more like the territories that have to blindly follow the U.S. government and the people who control the United States government decisions. All the, Canada right up there. I mean, you got the dollar has lost like 60% of its value just like a year or so. Colombia's has lost like 60% of its value in the last few years, and actually lost like 40. It lost 20% of the value in like 3 months recently. So, and Turkey's economy, Ukraine's economy, a lot of these countries are really closely connected to the United States. Their economies are just going into the gutter. So, it's definitely a sign that too that America will be next to take a big hit on their value of the dollar, and when it happens, it's going to be alarming because you see people fighting over a deal on Black Friday, and when we have a serious.
If people are going here are beating each other for an LCD TV and an Xbox on Black Friday, what are they going to do when it's a pallet of top ramen and powdered milk? You know. That when people line up for 3 days to get access to that, that's going to be ugliness.
Well, it's going to be like Mad Max Beyond Sundown or something. I mean, it's definitely going to be. It's good. I'll say one thing is that people that you better be well armed when it happens. And yeah, you might want some kind of armored vehicle like in that movie, and have your own gang of thugs or whatever to take on the world at that point, because it's going to be. It's going to be some chaos. I would say that ultimately you want to be outside the United States at that point of the office.
If you get back to the solutions-oriented point of this, I think that the best thing that we could do as individuals would be to prepare for what's coming, because getting back to my personal opinion, it's the only thing that fixes this is extreme ultra-violence. You can't do that by yourself. If you even think about doing that, number one, you're a lunatic, and everything will ever be pinned. Everything evil that ever happened will be pinned on you, and you are actually hurting whatever goal that you're trying to achieve by doing that. So it doesn't happen until, well, honestly, the people who don't listen to this kind of radio say, something's wrong here. I went to go get the 99-cent McNuggets, and it's not McNuggets anymore. Now it's 14 Cheerios, and the cable's out.
Oh.
That's when it's going to get half.
I agree with that.
Very soon is that we're about to reach a point where physical currency is not even much of a thing, and let's talk about one of the major things that's going to happen with this really high-tech police state measures. That hasn't been really rolled out yet, but they've started experimenting with it. I've seen some some people are willingly put this thing in the RFID chip, just scan your thumb or whatever, wherever you have your RFID chip, I figure put it in your wrist or whatever. And then they scan it, and that's how you open your credit cards or whatever. I mean, they already started putting the chips in the credit cards. I got my debit card 2 weeks ago, whatever, and I was like, oh, shit, got one of these chips or whatever in it. So that means they can, if they ever wanted to track me down or whatever, that's one more thing I have to get rid of in order to to escape.
It's like fantasy talk. If they want to track you down, know exactly where you are. Honestly, you put your voice on the radio, and you'd be easy to find if you really somebody wanted. Same with me.
Well, I'm saying one more thing. I mean, already have so many ways that they can track you. You got your phone, you got your passport, you got your cards. Yeah, it's pretty hard to actually lose your phone off the interwebs and actually be able to be not being tracked momentarily or whatever until they can surveillance drone spy on you or whatever. That's also another thing. These smart dust that they can now send out, and they just get like one little trace of it on you. It just looks like a little dust or whatever, so you couldn't even actually see it. This stuff it can track anything practically, and it's so tiny. They got all the tracking RFID technology down to so small. It's ridiculous. I mean, the stuff that used to be, it used to take a big, like a beacon that'd be the size of a quarter at least, 10, 15 years ago, is now down to a little speck of dust. And so if they really want to track somebody, it's going to be very hard for that person to get away. That's what I say is that it'd be better to not really worry about it and not be in the city or whatever and, just wait for that moment to happen. And you're going to be in when the martial law sets in the next presidency, when, Hillary Rodham Clinton is president, and under her administration, we're definitely going to see war with Iran and martial law. I mean, I can almost guarantee that. So you definitely want to be.
That's like kind of the one of the reasons that I'll be honest with you, in this stinkhole of an election, which really is just nothing more than changing the menu and the statue out in front of a McDonald's. I kind of like Trump for the fact that he scares the hell out of the media. I mean, they talk about him and, oh my God, Trump is throwing babies into the wood chipper, and he's saying things about Muslims and the Mexicans and the blacks and blah, blah, blah. Every lie that they possibly can, stretching truth to the ultimate edge on this guy. I'm not saying that he's saying nothing, but he's not what they're saying. So he's got the fact that he's scaring the hell out of everybody, and he's also the only one who hasn't said that he wants to immediately bomb Iran. And he's not looking to pick a fight with Putin.
Well,
the way I see it is you're discussing Donald Trump, who is a member of the establishment. He wouldn't be there and be visible unless he was selected.
Yeah, but he's not Committee for Foreign Relations at the Trilateral Commission. And I mean, honestly, yeah, you can't become a New York, New Jersey real estate developer without going to like a few bar mitzvahs. That's absolutely
what I got to say about that is that, ultimately, Trump is that he hasn't given any indication that he's going to be much different on a lot of stuff. I mean, his policy in Latin America is going to be the same. We're doing a coup against anybody that will be against U.S. interest, or it doesn't seem like he's going to really I mean, I saw him talking about the Syrian rebels, and I couldn't believe that he actually was against the funding of the Syrian rebels. He was talking about how it was a ridiculous policy. But Iran, he said he's going to bomb Iran if Saudi Arabia is under threat or Israel's threat. I mean, he's made that pretty clear. It's been pretty much a line of any of pretty much all the candidates. The only thing he said different than, Ted Cruz, is that Ted Cruz said that he's going to pitch out the Iran deal on the first day of his presidency and put down harsher sanctions immediately. Trump said he would just renegotiate it and then try to keep the Iran deal just under different terms, which, if you ask me, I don't see the major fault.
It's by some miracle that Trump is installed as president, and he's the greatest ticket to gridlock. Nothing will ever happen. and that's with the assumption that everything stays the same. Everybody keeps on playing the $6 game and blah blah blah. Trump won't ever get nothing done. I mean, they're saying he puts babies in wood chipper now. Imagine if he tries to do something like, I don't know, for school lunches. It's, oh my God, Donald Trump wants to feed your children 3 concentrated food burgers, well, you know, the whole 9 yards. It's the media influence is just pure insanity. And yeah, if electing Trump means that we're that closer to getting it on, let's get it on, because things can't continue the way they are.
Like you said, Trump news in 2016, you know, we're going to have remember the Trump team we were talking about, that's what he's going to do with his money and power as presidency. He's going to assemble an action hero squad of the A team. Going to have News and Trump. Going to have 2 other guys in there. Well, who do we
pick like Jesse the Bloody Ventura as one of those? You ain't got time to bleed, you know.
Jesse Ventura. Yeah, Jesse Ventura actually was I think he's considered an independent run or something like that. I saw for 2016. I give the credit on Ventura actually, is that he had, at least he was better than Jones. I mean, Jones, ultimately he just sounds like an edgier Fox News host or whatever. He doesn't really say anything on his shows, and ultimately just puts a lot of disinfo out there with many things. And he doesn't criticize Israel. And I think Ventura at least has criticized Israel before, at least a few times.
Well, come on, guys. Am I still here?
Yeah, hey, Duck, you're here with us, brother. Come on.
Yeah, no, all this talk about, we sound like we're talking about the lesser of 2 evils again. I mean, and this is redundant. We've been doing this for 1,000 fucking years. I don't want to talk about the lesser of 2 evils anymore. Trump is better than...
You start pulling triggers. That's it. The lesser of 2 evils, or you start pulling triggers. That's the only choice you got. What are you going to do? Not pay taxes? You're going to protest? You're going to write letters to you? That's it.
Well, how about we start local? You do it in your community. I'll do it in mine. We'll talk to our city councilors and say, hey, bud, you know, this is what we're seeing and this is what's going on. And then we get a community together that starts to realize. You get your community together that starts to realize. And then we pull together and make it larger so that we can all just have our simple little communities. Leave me the fuck alone. Forget about these major players.
I think
the lesser of 2 evil guys.
The minute that you go to the city council and start saying things like this, I think you'll get that leave me the fuck alone right then and there. Well, I don't think you're going to get any sort of mass rebellion or mass awakening or mass consciousness event until people figure out that they're getting screwed. And right now, there's a lot of good shit on TV, and there's a 99-cent menu that really kicks ass. So things are still going pretty good. They're still going to make they still got to make the payment on the bass boat. You know, they've got 2 truck payments. They just bought themselves a new house. Everything's going fine. You're not going to do anything. So if you're looking for a solution to happen right now, the only thing that you got any kind of effect on is pulling a trigger, and that's a bad idea.
Well, I think if I can quote Hal or paraphrase him anyways, we need to have a more better word in our mouth. And when we go into our communities, like where I live here, being 20 miles from town, and I know most everybody, I talk to the sheriff, to the deputies, to the justice of the peace, to the county judge, and to be able to articulate that which is against us is our first hope. And then to be able to get involved, they call it city council some places, but, here in the country, the counties in Arkansas, they have a quorum court, and it's devolved into little more than just administration, and they're in the same trap game. And so I think it's important that we're able to convey the information that's being used against us and do it to where we're not insulting somebody, because then they quit listening. So that's my word on that.
I mean, I guess more with what Mike wants to say. That's ultimately, I mean, you could either, it's not even lesser of two evils at this time. I mean, it's really just, picking one of the another shithead out of the hat.
It doesn't matter
or
because
pull the trigger.
the diebold machine counts the vote. So it don't matter how many votes or who votes or whatever. It only matters who counts the votes, and that machine does it. So really,
Well, yeah.
just enjoy the show.
Well,
enjoy the show.
Either way, at this point, all these candidates just suck. I mean, it's like even talk about Trump or Sanders or whatever. I mean, they ultimately nothing very impressive, and I don't even think it's going to come down to either of those two in the general. I mean, I have a feeling that it's going to be Cruz and Clinton, and then Clinton's going to cruise to election, no pun intended, and then so they only have two options, or one. You have two options. You can either leave if you want to avoid this, and go somewhere, or go to Cuba or something like that, or you can start pulling triggers. I mean, that's really and start a revolution of some kind. I mean, maybe at the local level, everybody tries to storm their local city hall or whatever, but ultimately just end up with the state and federal law enforcement getting called in. So I mean, it'd have to be a pretty well organized thing. I mean, it's not impossible, but I'm saying it's the only option. If you want to talk about actually changing the United States, and people say, "Oh, just stop paying taxes or whatever." It's like everybody stopping taxes at once. It's not going to happen. Number one, and number two, they got a lot of money stored. It's not like when we stop paying taxes, they get bankrupt on day one. They got an unlimited credit card from the Rothschilds to keep putting tanks out on the streets when something like this happens. So it's not, people say, and I see especially from the everybody's a statist and we're the so wholly anarcho-capitalist to say stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, everybody stop paying taxes, we would be able to change the government or whatever. And they actually are against violent revolution. They believe that if your ideas need violence, no matter if it even is overthrowing a violent government, that your ideas are invalid. They have all these catchphrases I've noticed over the years. I'm not down talking every anarcho-capitalist, but I'm talking a stereotypical one, like I've seen many online. And it's that there's all these different people that have infiltrated the truth movement, unfortunately.
I'll tell you,
that
anybody who really says that there's nonviolent change available is, number one, is a poor student of history, and number two is acting against your best interest. Because there is no result in the history of the world where there was a nonviolent change executed and it stayed that way. It doesn't happen. The plain, ugly truth of the matter is you don't want the bad guys, you have to kill them. Or because they will continue.
Yeah, and these people that say that we can do it just simply by not paying taxes or whatever. That's what they believe. And again, it's the same people. I see the other major contradiction is that they'll say is that, oh yeah, at least we have capitalism or whatever in this country, which number one, you just said 2 minutes ago that the country sucks because we don't have capitalism. And number two, is that our economic system is pretty fucked up, whatever you call it. I call it corporatism. And we have, at this point, 400 people controlling 80% of our country's money, while the rest of us, 999,600 people have to scrap for what's left. And we have a lot of people right now. Yeah, I see stats that are absolutely ridiculous. Like, that the number of people that live under $2 a day in America has quadrupled in the last 20 years. And I think it's definitely a sign of where this country is going. I want to bring this back to the topic at hand about technologies or controls. I want to ask Chris from Canada there a question. Is that over there in Canada, have you seen some of the stuff like here in Florida they brought in the smart street lights, which this stuff is really people didn't even complain at all or whatever. It's literally these lights that have the sensors on them and have a camera on them that they can relay information right back to General Electric. And General Electric's giving that right to the government, and they're working together. So it's ultimately the government just subcontracted surveillance of all the streets here in CP, Tampa, or I guess the other places. Actually, I think only right now at this point only my little town, Gulfport, little part of St. Pete has put the streetlights. Mine came past as well. But still, is anything like that up there? Motion sensors, anything like that up in wherever you live?
Oh, yeah. All of our, in the suburbs now, if somebody's walking their dog down the street light will come on when they notice them. And they don't think anything. They say thank you, government, for putting that light on for me. But nobody asks the question as to how that happened. And yeah, of course, it's very prevalent up here. We have stoplight cameras and all the malls. Anywhere you walk in a mall, they have facial recognition. You know, it's stuff Jules talks about all the time. I mean, this is where we're going. It's where we're.
Well, no, yeah. It's
go
really,
ahead, sorry.
You know, it's nightmare. It's very nightmarish ultimately, and I know Jules covers that a lot. And I give her credit on that. She's that's really what she's, you know, almost like our main focus is all this, you know, technologies and stuff like that. I just thought of doing a show like that because kind of saw something a little bit different, and you know, just off of an open forum like kind of having right now. But yeah, there's also I see that what they're going to be the identifying feature that they're going to be really relying on a lot of people on, or relying on identifying a lot of people on, is that if these sensors, they're looking at your gait or how you walk, and you know, it's pretty much unique for every single person who has the exact same walk.
They'll cross-reference that with your Facebook and your Instagram and all that. And you know, I haven't been on Facebook in 3 months, and honestly, my Facebook was with a fake name. Like the last 5 Facebooks I've had a fake name. So I would encourage everybody out there to do that. You know, go out and get yourself one of those cheap, disposable, pay-as-you-go smartphones. Sometimes you can find them for like $10. Sure, you know, get the Wi-Fi. Don't buy minutes on it. Don't even register the damn thing. Just turn it on and use it as a little computer and make a fake Facebook name and make it completely exactly the opposite of who you are. Throw off those algorithms.
That's a good idea. And you know what, Michael, you'll remember Roger T. Hatt. I created that. I created that Facebook account just to show that there is a way to backdoor them. You know, they want to prove that you're real. Well, that was real easy to do.
Well, they'll ask you, because, like, no, I had the Facebook name of Juan Tamales, and after getting into some, I would say, some heated discussions over some sensitive political topics, Israel, and I was asked, am I a real person? And they really wanted me to provide documentation. And I finally got to a screen where all they wanted me to provide was my middle name. So my middle name became Guacamole.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, actually. Yeah.
So they can blow me, man. Don't screw Facebook. You know, honestly, it's only useful as long as we're using it.
Yeah, Facebook's just starting to get kind of ultimately it's a lot of the same memes get recycled or whatever. Or Facebook at this point, I mean, it's just to keep in touch. Well, yeah, it's supposed to keep in touch with other people in the truth movement or whatever. But I think we should all go to VK, which is Russian ran, and it's ran by a guy that's close in with the Putin government, I guess. At least it seems like a better option than Zuckerberg's ran website. And there's a cool, you know, actually some, you know, not even anything political. Like they got music there. Like you can, it's got like a thing where you just go to the music, type in any song correctly you want. I mean, at least 80s stuff, because that's what I listen to. And, you know, you can listen to it. They got this giant database of music. They got and it's almost exactly like Facebook. It's like a copy of Facebook, but it's centered around Russia. Called just VK, and I joined like about 2 months ago.
Anything coming out of Russia, I would say that straight off. I still don't trust the Russians, the commies, but I don't think that they're the ultimate bad guy in the world. I don't think, and honestly, I think Putin really loves his people. I think he loves his people. He loves his country.
Well, I'd rather be in America I'd rather be here than in any other country. I can say that.
Absolutely.
And I want to go on record to say that I still say Jeb Bush is going to be the next president, and I see that there'll be some reason.
Dude.
Huh?
It's Hillary and Rom.
Well, I still say Jeb Bush. That's my prediction. I say that that Trump will come into some scandal, or he won't be nominated by the GOP, or but there'll be a reason that Jeb Bush comes back in, and I say it'll be Jeb versus Hillary, and Jeb will take it.
That not be concerning?
I
think if it came
We
to
got
that,
we got two Trudeau here in Canada that have been prime minister. The latest one is a fucking drama teacher at best. And then we've got in my hometown we've got Milliken's and Jew Rosen as mayors, and another Jew just got elected. I don't know how. I mean, it's right in your face, fucking stupid, silly. And if anybody votes Bush or Clinton in again, you guys might as well just put on your zombie suits and be done with it, because it's just totally pathetic. I can't believe this. I can't believe even people talking about a Bush or a Clinton.
Well,
or a Trudeau.
I don't see any way that Jeb. I don't know where Vince, you gotta admit nobody would support it. People would actually be pissed off if Jeb became president, because nobody liked him. Well, that's what they did. Their little experiment with him, and ultimately, he got mutilated at debates by Trump. Trump really made him look like a clown. I think that's ultimately, I don't like Trump.
Trump
I'm just saying
called him low energy and it stuff.
But remember, though, how short people's attention span is and their memories. So when it comes around to November, nobody's going to even remember anything of being about being stumped on 9/11 or anything else.
I disagree. I'm telling you, I watched an interview with Trump on MSNBC on Morning Joe. So that's hosted by Joe Scarborough, a former congressman, Mika Brzezinski, who's the daughter of the big Brzezinski, and then they had three other Washington reporters, like people who cover the White House, and Trump on there for 33 minutes. Number one, 33 minutes is an entirely outrageous long time. That's almost enough time to get like a real interview done. Well, of course, it was Trump. So there was no real interview done. And to be honest with you, Trump said absolutely nothing until he kind of basically says without saying that Israel is behind the terror of ISIS and funding them without actually saying Israel. But for the rest of that time, manhandled them and said nothing. The man is a master of the media. He beats the media at their own game.
Well, I think that's using their techniques and propaganda. First of all, I haven't watched not one single political ad or any YouTubes from not any of them, and I'm proud to say that. And I hope I can make the same statement in November. But I'm going to say this real quick. Trump is the actual opposite of what he is portrayed to be. He's a corporate whore. He made his money as a scumlord and as bankrupting countries. He's what do they call them guys? Murder and acquisition. He's evil. He's evil. And I'll tell you what, I will support the wall if he will pay for 6 foot of it, and he be the 6 foot under foundation to start it with. And then I'll back that wall. I'll guarantee you I will.
Vince, you're absolutely 100% correct. Trump is a buffoon. There's not going to be a wall. Trump says exactly what he has to say at that minute, and it doesn't matter how outrageous it is. It doesn't matter.
I think Donald just brought that about for his. He just brought that about for his rallies, just for it to be a rallying cry every time his rallies. I see, he says it, and it's like the entire stadium. And when he says who's going to pay for it, and everybody's Mexico. I think that's almost the stuff that he brought just to get a lot of supporters. But
Mexico quit making payments on it, and then we'll have to repossess the wall. There's going to be no wall. He just talks, but everybody I think truly knows that only the truly stupid think that he's going to make America great again. Anybody who doesn't see that if he does actually get in and the system actually remains intact enough for him to actually have any sort of power, there's going to be just massive gridlock. Not a fucking thing will ever happen again. All right, but He just says
Well,
what he
I got-
has to say at that moment.
Well, yeah,
And everybody knows it.
I've
And
back
that's
on position like 3 times.
That's the
That-
biggest. That's the biggest none of the above vote in the world is Trump.
Well, yeah, I've seen him on interviews and stuff. He go back 3 times or whatever on the same position. He doesn't have any firm position on the TV on the TV interviews that he does. And ultimately, I gotta say is that it's all of them are it's all for the same game. I mean, Cruz, Clinton, whoever actually wins in the long run, it's gonna be Clinton. I think that Michael's got a pretty firm prediction on that. Hillary Clinton, Rahm Emanuel.
Sachs give the money to? Who does Goldman Sachs give the money to? That's who wins.
Well, Clinton and Cruz are both really heavily connected to Goldman Sachs. I mean, Cruz. That's what I'm saying. They're the ones that are going to make the general election. I don't see how Jeb, after he quit back in February, how he's actually going to show back up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to actually start." He's actually going to be able to win the RNC or whatever. It's going to be. I already see it happening right now. Is that all these people that have been, that were running with the establishment up to. Now they're all starting to back Cruz. Even the people that really hated Cruz, that they have picked Cruz over Trump or whatever. Because I don't think, Trump ultimately, he's got a big mouth. He might say, if you ever put him in the president, he probably would say something like on the first day. He probably, he wouldn't even realize it. He'd be like, "Okay, I'm telling you, I'm going to be the greatest president since they murdered that guy JFK." And people are like, "Hey, who are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh yeah, Israel, right?" And Federal Reserve.
Israel 9/11. Yeah, just say Israel 9/11.
You'll say it by accident. So you'll probably say, yeah. You'll probably midway say it's like, okay, now I'm going to ban all Muslims so we can prevent Israel from doing another attack like 9/11, like what they did on 9/11. It's like, don't you mean the Al Qaeda? And it's like, no, I meant Israel. I know what I'm talking about right here. And then he'll get like shot in the head or something if he said that. I mean, I think that.
Yeah, no, I don't think that'll ever happen because I honestly think it's Hillary. Look.
You're going to get Hillary Clinton. That's who's going to be your president. And that's when I hope that people wake up and realize the game.
Bradley Chelsea Manning went to prison for the rest of his life and got his willy chopped off, probably. I'm betting that sex change was part of his punishment. But he got that for 70 emails. For 70 emails, he went to prison and got the sex change. Hillary Clinton had 2,100 and counting, and she is out lying to everybody and barking like a dog in a truck commercial.
I've got a question, Michael. I've got a question. Did Manning actually? I mean, perhaps they used some mind techniques on this guy. It never did add up to me. Never did.
That does make no sense to me that dude got a sex change. Like those things are totally expensive, and that's kind of not like a physical need.
Yeah, I think it was part of the propaganda for people in the military to dehumanize them, to cause ridicule.
If you do this, we're going to
your dick. You know what's half about? Is that is for other people overseas. Ultimately to not really like or Bradley Manning because. For example, in Russia, where Snowden's heavily respected, and they've actually let Snowden in their country. Bradley Manning, there's no way, even if he is released one day, or and he goes over there. Well, now it's going to be pretty hard because they're going to save him as their trainee or whatever, even though that he did not choose that. And all the Russian people and a lot of foreigners, they really do not approve of that whatsoever. So it really discredited him, and even with Americans. And I think that definitely they can put drugs in the person. They can do all kinds of torture to make them either accept that or they did it to him unwillingly, and they just that was part of the punishment. I agree,
Chris. How many times have you heard somebody in prison, especially a federal prison, are able to go get even some other type of elective surgery that is other than. Let alone a sex.
Hell, dude, somebody in prison has like a cardiac problem. They need like a bypass. What do? That dude either dies in prison or they let him out. They don't.
Well,
no way, man. Prisons don't absorb the cost of anything like anything near that. And the United States military don't pay for shit like that. Unless it's some sort of like Operation Flying
It
Fuck.
was for that purpose purely. The United States military had that as a motive. It was to completely discredit Bradley Manning. He's always going to have a weird haze on him, on his legacy. And it's like, when you look at it compared to Snowden or Assange or whatever, is that there's always going to be, there's that asterisk, is that Bradley Manning, ultimately did this in the long run. I hear these stories about, I don't know, people somebody I used to do radio with was telling me, oh no, that's a lie. Bradley Manning had these thoughts well before that, but I didn't hear anything of this. I think I've been mentioned at least once until all of a sudden I hear this out of the blue that he's getting a sex change. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it when I first saw the headline. I was like, this is definitely something weird is going on here. I mean,
that's Operation Stop the Leak is what that was. That one, he either really got a sex change or they're just feeding us a whole big line of bullshit. But either way, it's not legit, man. There's something funky about that.
They haven't even showed a picture.
He might have been flamey fruity homo before he went in, but I cannot see them paying them money on something like that.
I mean, it might have been true that it might have been gay or something before that, but I really doubt that. Number one, with all the stuff that's going on at that time, that he would have even asked for that. It feels like it would have been just not appropriate. It would have been not on his main list of things that he's worrying about after he's just been sentenced 35 years to prison. And yeah, they would never have paid for that. That's expensive. Yeah, this is the people that, like you said, I mean, you see the VA. VA is so poorly funded and so poorly ran. You have all these people that are from died from Agent Orange, and not just people from Vietnam, but people that were stationed in Korea well after, like in the 70s and 80s. They were all exposed to Agent Orange, and they can't even get any help. And these people are dying. These people are getting cancer, and they're getting very little help from the VA. Yeah, and that's our military for you. That's our government in general for you. Is that they take a lot of money from us and take a lot of money from their drug running operations and their wars and all the money they get from the corporations that they work with. But ultimately they're way in the black. They got a lot in the black when it comes to their operations. I mean, they still have that huge debt to the Federal Reserve who ultimately make the money, but they are not spending a lot of money on stuff like, of course, not public services. A huge amount on the military. I mean, we pay more on our military, on our defense spending, than all the other countries in the world combined. And you see, that's another thing I want to talk about. Since we're talking about technology, you see all the shit that's been unraveled to the people right now. Imagine the shit that the military has in secret. Because let's say that 1 year of the military is like 16 years in the rest of the world when it comes to how far technology progresses. You can just imagine what kind of stuff they're experimenting with to be, pulled out during martial law. I'm just saying is that it's going to be, who knows what exists, the weaponry that they probably have. I mean, I imagine probably one of the things they probably worked on is probably something that probably kills everybody but doesn't even do any structural damage to anything. I bet they have some kind of weapon like that they're working on, invisible shit. Yeah, I know they have cloaking devices they're working on to put on the suits of soldiers. I mean, they probably got also... probably got a little.
Well, I mean, the news just said. I mean, this was on the news that they've got a great big laser cannon. Like 45 megawatt laser cannons that can roast a jet at melt a jet at 100 miles or something like that. So.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't even know about
General
that.
Dynamics is ready to start providing them as soon as Navy gives the go ahead.
Yeah. Oh. Looks like Chris from Canada dropped off there. But anyways, yeah, they got the military. I saw the invisible. They got the cloaking devices now. I saw that's pretty interesting. And also, I even saw that they literally have started working on an Iron Man suit, like from the movie Iron Man.
I saw a picture of some Russian soldiers in Syria wearing an exosuit. It appeared to be use heavy loading. They were loading crates, but they were wearing a suit.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know what that part of that Russian operation in Syria was sort of about. Not only was it actually defeating ISIS, and actually pushing ISIS pretty much out to the desert and making it where it's a very winnable war now for the Syrian Arab army to finish this off, unless the United States intervenes, which they will. And believe me, just a year time, the United States, I think, will be entering Syria. But it was a showcase.
They gave
it was a showcase of all their weapons. So this was that's what it was. Yeah, they showed all their high-tech machine guns. They showed all their high-tech, their exosuits. I mean, remember that video that went kind of viral. That machine gun that the Russians were using, that thing was absolutely insane. Like, it's almost like that's a gun porn right there. That's no.
It was a bullet hose. That thing was just massive. People were because nobody's ever really heard that like in real life, and they thought just the big. They thought it was like some sort of laser device or something. Like, no, that's just a lot of bullets.
That's what it looked like. It looked like some kind of fiery thing coming out, but it actually was just so many bullets coming in a short succession. It just looks like to your eye, like a straight line of bullet, or it just looks like a straight line, but just so many bullets. I mean, wasn't that thing shooting out like, what was it, 30,000 a minute or something like that? It was something ridiculous.
I think it's 6,000 rounds a minute or something per barrel, and it's got like barrels on something. Yeah, it's outrageous.
Hey guys, let me interrupt for a moment and welcome Sojourners, and thanks for coming over into chat. And he has another little group that he's shared this show to, and so he was commenting some on the audio quality. I think that's something you're still working on, Chris. And Mike's on a cell phone, so I'll ask how is my audio coming across there, Sojourners? And hey, thanks for coming along. Appreciate you participating, and he and I are going to be talking more later too on some information I'll share with you later. But anyways, I'll hand it back there.
Yeah, we got a good 35 minutes or so after the show, so we got quite a bit of time to take some questions from the chat room. Whatever, if another caller wants to come in, 718-717-8296, 718-717-8296. It's pretty good to actually have, we actually had kind of a good roundabout chat going for a while, and what I concerned I had for all, so I think it's one of the longest streaks I went with 5 weeks and not even having a caller. I don't know what exactly I did. I remember that one time.
You get callers that call for your show. My show, we get wrong numbers.
Yeah, we do have another call coming in. Yes, this is Geoengineering Watch. Wow. No, just kidding. That's what Michael would always get on Tuesday nights, callers for Geoengineering Watch. Of course, Dane Wigington here. That's funny though. And Chris had to fall off there in Canada. His connection was not so great. But thanks for calling, Chris. Yeah. Chris is producer for Ron Stevens' Game On, airing Sundays right after Shawley, and also on Tuesdays and Thursdays live, and then again Saturday night here on UCY we simulcast Canada Live. Ron Stevens, and Chris again is his producer, and really happy to work with Chris. He's a great guy. We're glad to cross that border via the airwaves, and thanks, Jules, for providing this venue. You're awesome, and such a hard worker, and appreciate all that everybody does here. Chatters, we make it up here.
Well, the best gift ever with UCY.
Yeah, she really, worked very hard to sustain UCY, and she, practically made this network altogether. I mean, we wouldn't really have much of a platform, and, she's been able to, and I guess also the work of us at the same time. I mean, it's been pretty cool how we've been able to make a platform, where we have, a decent amount of listeners. I remember we used to do a Blog Talk Radio. I mean, people, online radio shows, unfortunately, that's just a characteristic, is that unless you're one of the top ones, you're not going to get too many people. I mean, on Stable Radio, that was the station I worked at before this one. I mean, we got, lucky 30 or whatever. That's just the YouTube views alone. There's also the website. There's a few other platforms this show goes out onto. I mean, I gave a shout out to them in a while. We also go on the Real Liberty Media, and we go out to worldtruth.org, that site as well. So
Yeah, let me clarify that real quick. World Truth is going dark Wednesday. It shuts down. There's another network that's started up by Grimner and Bo Diddley, and that is Freedom Network. Real Liberty
cool.
Media listeners, the chatters over there, I post a show every Sunday night with a redirect. Grimner has provided a station list above. UCY.TV is channel 6, and it will bring you right over here to the chat when you click on it. And right here to UCY.TV, that is. So welcome any listeners right now from Real Liberty Media. I've been posting the information over there for a while now, and a bunch of great folks there as well. So, and there's Hal over there right now as we speak behind the woodshed. So thanks, everybody. I'm glad that we're working together, and this is what Hal was talking about last Sunday about how we share our venues and how we spread the word. And so, yeah, Grimner and Jules have been friends for a long time, and I know they've had collaboration with work before. And so, yeah, thanks everybody that takes part in bringing the word to folks and having a good discussion.
What I really wish would happen at least a few more times is I could have, I wish that some of the people that, because I wonder how many people actually that I've shown the show around to, people that I know actually personally or whatever, actually listen to the show. I wish that some of them would actually interact with the show every now and then. I tell them, I say all the time, don't be shy to call in. I mean, it's not like I'm going to call you an idiot or something like that. Like, a certain somebody that used to work on this show before wasn't exactly too kind to the callers, but that's the past. But I never, unless they say something really, like hateful against me or start cursing at me. I mean, of course, I'll call them a dumb motherfucker or something like that. I mean, I'm not, but unless they actually do something to deserve it, I'm not going to, because make fun of their ignorance or whatever, because unfortunately that's the state of this country. There's a lot of people that do not know, that they've just been brainwashed by the media, but the media is losing. The mainstream media is losing its influence, and like I've said before, is that actually, the internet. I mean, there's so many news websites like RT that came up, and Telesur, Press TV, overseas websites that actually get a lot of truth of what's going on out there. I think RT has been the best source because it's the most watched on YouTube. I mean, sure, they don't exactly dive in. It feels like they skirt around and use different words for stuff. I mean, when Putin ever says the unipolar world, he means the New World Order is what he's talking about. What he's trying to avoid. He mentions a lot about avoiding that. Is that he just doesn't say an outright New World Order. But everybody knew what he's talking about, especially in that speech where you could see all those people, all those European leaders and stuff. They're all nervous because he's exposing all their bullshit back in 2007. For like 30 minutes, he goes on and on and on, talking about that kind of stuff. So,
Gaddafi did the same thing at the UN. Gaddafi laid it all out at the UN. Probably about a year before he got off.
It wasn't the UN. It was it was at the it was some European meeting or something like that. It was like Putin was meeting with all those European leaders, all those Sarkozy back then, Merkel. Merkel. She's really a scary leader ultimately. Like Putin, one of the things he does when he meets with Merkel is that Putin has this big black lab dog, this personal dog, and then Merkel's like apparently hates dogs and scared of them. He just lets the dog right in the room. He'll just say to put the heat on Merkel a little bit. I always found that to be one of his funnier tendencies. I have to say that I think it's definitely a good place for people to consider that if they want to leave before this happens, is that Russia is becoming a place to leave. I mean, people say, like you guys were saying, is that you rather live here than anywhere else. I mean, of course, there's always the language gap. I think is what prevents a lot of people, or that the cultural differences or whatever. Which I don't find it that big of a problem. I mean, I went down to Colombia or whatever, and it's such a different culture, and I was able to adapt, I guess.
Привет, Sukra. How's that for some Russian? Yeah, RT is propaganda. It's anti-American. It plays on the commercialism of what's so wrong with America. And if you want a good news source, come to ucy.tv/news, and you're going to find a lot of feeds right there. And also, I want to make good mention of Pigmine News. And if you're into news, Pigmine brings all the best news clips there. And so that's my suggestion. Hey, welcome to UCY back here, there, Hal. And
Well,
Hal,
it's propaganda. I mean, that's a subjective term right there. It's a bias for sure. But when you talk about anti-American, it's like, well, of course. I mean, if you were to actually talk favorably of the American government in any way, shape, or form, or any of the institutions around it, that would be surely propaganda. And we know how fucked it is, and we know that all that they're saying is true. And sometimes people take what they're saying as America as a whole, but a lot of times RT has shown a lot of solidarity with different movements inside of America and actually cover stuff that no other news really around the world will cover. I'm not doing.
RT is comedy propaganda, but it's the biggest threat RT has is it threatens our narrative. It's just a different take on it. That's all it is.
Well, Russia isn't communist anymore. I mean, Russia isn't communist.
They're like the post-commie world over there. I mean,
it's much different now.
You can't break the training, until you're like at least 5, 6, 7 generations out, and then there's still a lot that you can't break. Here, completely different. We had far more access to and far more powerful propaganda to break our spirit. I think we're done by the next generation.
Well, I think that. Well, I mean, most of the Russians now support Putin. Putin is definitely not. I don't think by any means
I think the biggest
a Bolshevik.
Is the Russians have a leader who cares about their country now, and
most of the people support him. I mean, 90% of the people support him. I mean, I think most Russians are starting to accept, for the most part, that what is going on now. This is a new era of Russia. This is not Russia trying to live up to the power that it had in the 70s or whatever when it was the Soviet Union or whatever. It's not. I think that it's taken more characteristics, if any, from the old Russia,
and
from the Tsar days.
Putin learned the follies of that time. Putin learned that they got outspent, and Putin learned that you had to break free of that banking game, and then you could do whatever.
I think one of the major things that one of the shows, another topic too, is we're talking about technology. I didn't even mention it, and I think it's a pretty important thing to mention. But smart meters, I was thinking of, is that people say, I mean, smart meters, that kind of stuff, something that tracks all your appliances and all that stuff in your house. And I mean, I hear a lot about it, on certain parts of the truth movement on Facebook and stuff like that. They talk about, the smart meters can. I don't know exactly how far it goes, but I think it kind of goes made to the point of the kill switch is what people are worried about. I mean, is that now they're putting the stuff even on smartphones and cars? They're now putting these kill switches where they can just turn off at any point whenever they consider, whenever they need want. I guess I guess if you're fleeing from law enforcement or whatever, they'll turn. They're going to start having these on cars and then on your phone, so you can't communicate with anybody. I mean, that's another really Orwellian thing, is having kill switches on all kinds of appliances. And even now, they're admitting that the TVs, are literally like the they had a name for it in 1984. But, the televisions in 1984, they watched you. Now the smart TVs, that's exactly what they do. They emit it, insignia or whatever, and people don't even care. It's weird how complacent Americans have gone when Americans, I feel like 30 years ago it'd be absolute, it'd be more of an outlash at this. There'd be more, people would actually be like, wait a minute, it sounds like some kind of commie plot against us or whatever, that they're not watching watching all our living rooms, watching anywhere you have one of these smart TVs. They also can turn on at any point. That's why some people put the black tape over their camera phones or whatever. Now they can just turn it on any second. and they can watch.
There's the fear of that, and then there's also the study that was just released the other day that said that the under 24 said 67 or 76% or something like that would rather have internet access than have daylight. If they had to make a life, would they rather have daylight or would they rather have internet access? Yeah. So I mean, we're in a society that now completely addicted to this.
Well, yeah, this society is definitely, I see it, getting more and more. Everybody's looking down at their phones. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what kind of fun thing you're doing. People still are on their phones. I mean, I even like, doing something, completely, you wouldn't think you'd be using your phone at a roller coaster or something like that. I see people, they're filming the ride or whatever, or or at the baseball game, everybody's on their phone. Not a lot of them not even paying attention to the game, but they just paid $100 to get in those seats. Outside, nobody talking to each other. You could be at a coffee shop, and the one guy who's just drinking his coffee and trying to strike up conversation with the other guys in the coffee shop.
That dude's a weirdo. That dude's a weirdo. He's a possible terrorist.
Yeah, I know. Like they figure, especially if he tries to strike up a conversation with a woman in the coffee shop, he's automatically probably some kind of rapist as a sex dungeon because he's not on his phone and not using the free Wi-Fi, which ultimately that would probably, I mean, a lot of times be me. I mean, public places, I'll be one person who have the smartphone is that I'm not using it. If I feel like it's ruining the experience I paid for them, especially like I said at an amusement park, everybody's still on their phones. I just put it away in my pocket the whole time, or put it in a locker or something. Other people, they got the waterproof cases and stuff like that because they can't go 5 minutes having their phone in their hands. I mean, I think some people, there'll be a point where people are going to be locked. There'll be a disease where people are going to have their arm stuck in the air because they're so used to looking at their phone. And then when they don't have their phone in their hand, their hand's still going to be in the same position. It's going to be like a lock jaw except for your arm.
Well, New Jersey's trying to pass a law right now. They've got legislation that would outlaw walking and using your cell phone.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what
we're once again, we're focusing on both directions. And the people and the oppressors are focusing on things that don't matter. And maybe the oppressors focus on things that don't matter is to make us focus on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
To keep reinforcing that false paradigm of what's important. Chris brought up earlier, what's the solution? And I really don't see playing within the broken system anymore. I mean, that's one of my biggest gripes with the whole recent Monday thing is how can you address the system for recompense when you contend the very system is corrupt? And I mean, I don't think they were bad people by any means. I just think that they were maybe a bit misguided. I don't think there's. I think once you've made that decision to rebel against this system in a significant fashion like that, there's no coming back. That's why a lot of people ask.
Well, yeah,
Americans have guns. Why don't you start doing something? Well, because once we start doing something, there's no end to it. There ain't no finishing it until it's finished. It's not like we'll have a gunfight this weekend.
I mean, if we're gonna
to work on Monday.
If we're gonna revolt, I mean, all these people. That's another problem I see. A lot of people think that we could do these half-ass, pushes towards it. They can only put their feet in the water, but they don't realize that you're gonna have to dive, right in, if you're gonna do anything significant. Once you're in, you're in, and even stuff like not paying your taxes. What do you think the state and the government's gonna do when you stop paying your taxes? Do you think they're just gonna run out of money, go bankrupt, not be able to put guns to your house to arrest you? No, they're gonna still try to arrest you, and they're gonna still have plenty of money be loaned in by the Federal Reserve to be able to do so. So you're going to have your guns to defend yourselves. So at that point, you can believe all you want that it won't lead to violent revolution, but it will lead to violent revolution. And these people a lot of times believe that we shouldn't come down to violent revolution.
Maybe violent revolution is the only way to hide the money scam. Maybe that would be the only way to hide the money scam in the very end. When they can no longer Weimar out the money to, the 99-cent menu has merged into the $20 bike section or something like that. No, that's when the dollar dies. They need that to happen. They need the revolution to happen to cover the dollar scam. But they got control when it happens. So, just prepare yourself. That's all you can do.
Well, yeah, we can prepare. We can leave. There's a few things you can do. But I think ultimately, the only solution to this problem is 100% violent, revolution. We bring millions and millions of people up to the Capitol or something like that, because if you actually want to bring a solution. I see this country, unfortunately, it looks to me that it's going to go into martial law very quickly after this election. And, like you said, when we have Hillary and Rahm or whatever, whoever's the vice president, I think that's a pretty solid prediction of who's going to be president VP. When those two are in, watch out. Yeah, there's war with Iran. She pledged that 10 years ago. Martial law, of course, she supports anything like that. And Rahm Emanuel, he's from the same circle. He been the Chicago mayor for a long time, and he's got connections back. He's very strongly connected. That's why I think he could definitely get a high position like that, because he's very close in with the Israeli lobby. He's a dual Israeli citizen himself, which I think people sometimes fail to realize it. I think people think he's just half black or something like that. No, he's Israeli, pretty much. Rahm Emanuel, Hillary Clinton, that's bad news. And this election,
maybe the revolution has to cover up the dollar crash and the fact that the Israelis are controlling basically American national policy and foreign policy. The domestic policy and foreign policy is completely run by Israeli and Zionist special interest groups.
Well, you saw what happened this weekend. We had the AIPAC conference happen this weekend, actually. And, of course, talk about those. Trump had even sucking up at the AIPAC convention, I'm pretty sure. There was only one person that actually didn't show up. Only one candidate didn't show up, and he said it was over.
Who cares if he doesn't show up? He's one of them. He lived on an Israeli kibbutz. What's a kibbutz? A kibbutz is a Jewish commie summer camp. That's what that is. They make it sound like where did you learn communism? Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if Sanders don't go to AIPAC. It's not for him. He's one of them. That's how that one breaks down with Sanders in AIPAC. But the interesting thing about Trump going to AIPAC is right before he goes, his son gets a letter with, a white powder in it. And maybe that's
I saw that. But not that. I think it's just Trump's sister.
Ron Paul reported he had death threats. Threats against his family. Ross Perot reported that he dropped out of the race basically because he had death threats against his family. It was later reported. You got to wonder what Trump's getting right now. For fuck's sake, now there's a riot. It's not where is the Trump rally, but where is the daily Trump riot going to be?
I think ultimately, though, he's still an establishment candidate. He even admitted that he used to fund those same politicians that are going against him. And Trump, for years, he was always connected in with, he was connected with the Zionist lobby. You know that, right? He always sucks up to Israel every time they ask him about Israel on TV.
How do you finance all sorts of construction in New York and New Jersey without going through Zionist-controlled banks?
He's still doing it. He's still sucking up.
He's got in the billionaire world, he's kind of got what's like shake credit. He doesn't just go down to Wells Fargo and get himself a home loan. He's got to go through people that are, use very different and unorthodox, so to speak, methods of financing, and, obtaining that financing, and, what the documentation needed and so forth. He knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah, he's playing the game. But the problem is he's not afraid to say he's playing the game.
I got about 10 minutes left on the show here, so I want to make another few comments on a few other things that.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, Chris. I really enjoyed speaking with you. And, hey, Vince, it was good to talk to you. I want to thank Jules for this special gift because giving me a chance to rant. Kind of fun. Chris, have a good night. Thanks for the show, man.
Thanks, Michael. And, hey, I'd like to remind everybody before Chris closes out, stay tuned. Live Free FM is next with Nathan Frazier. And I was off catching Tony Bones and dropping that off. She made the announcement today. First I saw it that the owner of LRM has been, at least his computers has been confiscated. He's, I guess, accused of some child porn or advocating free choice of children to engage in sex, which is crazy. But anyways, so the message from Nathan Frazier tonight that I got from him is part of learning to make good choices in this life is a freedom to make bad choices and the ability to suffer the consequences. And they're just ahead. Thanks, Chris. I really enjoy producing for you. It gives me a chance to sit here in the background and collect links and conversate with folks in chat. And so I'm proud to be along with you and to be able to help you with your post and share it around. I've spread the message out to several networks, including Informed Planet, the new Freedom Network, Rabbit Hole Global, and over on UCY, Facebook there, of course, with the attributes to UCY.tv from the page that a few of us are created over there at Real Liberty Media, and we support UCY.tv. Thanks.
I wanted to say we have to, one thing that people also forget about is that are killing us with the technology is the TPP. And the fact that they now, with that, they're going to censor the internet soon, and that the shows like ours might be cut off the internet because of these. They have all these like guidelines that say, what's pretty much hate speech, what's not, and that these corporate guidelines. If you start criticizing certain corporations or the more stuff that you start criticizing the government or whatever, I guess they're gonna they'll be censoring it once the TPP is fully through, and that's why I say it's gonna be another part of the martial law. And also with the TPP. Monsanto, no matter how hard your town, your city, your state, or your country, if you're in the TPP, fight for the labeling or even the banning of GMO in your area, the TPP will say that Monsanto can then sue whoever just made that illegal. They could sue your city, they could sue your state, they could sue your country. Even the country's government, and then I guess that probably what will ultimately happen in that circumstance is that probably taxpayers or they can even sue individual people. Corporations will have the ultimate power once this TPP is signed, and people are so fixated with this Trump and Clinton, all this stuff, and don't realize that all this stuff is going down when it comes to the TPP. Has already passed through America, I think. But it could be revoked or something like that soon. There's a big pushback, at least. I don't think it's going to get revoked. Canada, I think, is next to sign on the TPP, and a few other, all these other countries. There's like there's like 7 countries yet to sign on 13, 12, or 13. I think it's like 12 countries. 5 already signed on, and now next 4 signed on. There's still 8 to go, and you have all these other countries that could sign on, like Vietnam or I think that Australia. That's another one. That New Zealand, I know, could sign on, and New Zealand and Vietnam, they're soon going to be voting on. I guess I think Vietnam's going to ultimately. I think at the last minute they're going to go back on that. That they're not really too. They don't really like the idea of having that. It's going to force them to trade with China, which they don't really. They have very bad relations with China, and the Vietnamese. It's going to it's going to really cripple all the stuff they've been working on for the last 20, really 30 years since they introduced Doi Moi, these economic reforms that were supposed to, bring Vietnam from being a shattered, war-torn third world country up to being somewhat of an Asian tiger, like they are now. And it would absolutely cripple them and send them probably back to the 80s or whatever. If you remember, Vietnam had the big refugee problem. Used to have coming out of Vietnam, that used to be the big thing, that people didn't want the Vietnamese refugees here. After the United States had tore that country up, killed 600,000 of their people, then the country was in absolute shambles and the economy was terrible. And so everybody started leaving on rafts to their neighbor countries, and eventually a lot of them came here to the United States. Then around the 80s and 90s, it's really started around the turn around the 90s. And then nowadays, it's actually very kind of like a trendy spot for a lot of like hippies, I guess, because it lacks cannabis laws mainly, where it's illegal in Vietnam. Like I think Southeast Asia is just culturally a whole different stigma on that. So that's probably what's attracting a lot of Americans go there. I mean, it's became so overflown with Americans there that now they have, when it comes to teaching English, which is pretty much like the major job that Americans do when they go to these countries, is now the teaching English. They have ridiculous requirements. The schools there, 4 years, the TEFL certification, and plus on top of all that, they have, you have to have experience a lot of times, which where are you going to get experience for that besides having a job like that? I guess you would have to go to another country that has a lot more lax law, like Laos or something, and then maybe go over to Vietnam, especially now that being all marketed with the beautiful, Hanoi became a beautiful place, and the train mainly became an absolute beautiful city. But it's overloaded. It's like American retirees right there on that beach. I got a few announcements to close off the show here as we are reaching the top of the hour. For the people that are, for people that want to really follow what I'm up to more, I guess, and other stuff that, I talk about stuff outside this radio show, actually, on Facebook. And if anybody wants to catch up on that kind of stuff, I mean, you can you can subscribe to me on Facebook, Chris Jackson Rojas on Facebook. I'm not going to say it too much more time, but I like to stay under the pseudonym Chris J on the radio for the most part. Chris Jackson Rojas, go on my Facebook and go subscribe. I say that now because now I started doing these live podcast video things, and I do them. I'm probably doing them every, at least one or two in between the shows. I do those more often probably now than this show, because the show's 2 hours. These are only like anywhere between. I never do anything that's like under 5 minutes. It's always anything between 5 to more like 30 minutes is what I hang around. And I'm not adding any more people. That's why I subscribe, because I already missed too much of what my friends already are close around in my close circle put up, and all the news I like to watch and stuff like that. All these different websites. If I added even more people, it would really start to. I wouldn't be getting any notifications from anybody or any story from anybody on my timeline there. And I think soon I might be making like a radio specific page, not like not timeline. I just didn't feel like doing it because I feel like it would make me. It would look kind of pretentious because people would say, "Well, he shouldn't have his own page. He's not a celebrity or anything like that." But it's more like the fact that I want something that I can interact more with the audience a little bit better without actually having my timeline, because that's I reserve it also for a lot more for people I went to high school with too. At least I have a big portion of it, because that's who I'm trying to really reach out to, people I knew personally, and try to tell them what's going on. I don't want to, to really suck to see something happen to them when all this stuff goes down. Especially people that I was actually pretty close to. We'll close out the show here. Next week, we got something special, one way or another. I don't know exactly what's going on next week, but I know that we are going to have a really good show next week, and I'm going to put up more details probably sometime between Wednesday and Friday, hopefully around Wednesday. We're closing off the show here in the next few seconds, so thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Chris from Canada.
Point of no return and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds him. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can never return, and if I back down now